On today's episode, we have the one, the only Mike Anderson at the Southeast Collision Conference talking about being extraordinary, the 5 languages of appreciation, and more. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome to Body Bangin', your podcast for all things body. Auto body, that is. And now, introducing Body Bangin's host, Mickey Woods of Mickey Woods Marketing. Mickey is a former auto collision center owner and is now a marketing and business development expert to shops across the globe.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of this series where we are talking to the speakers, attendees, vendors at the Southeast Collision Conference. This whole series is sponsored by Lombard Equipment, offering new and refurbished equipment to, well, pretty much everybody on the East Coast. And today I'm excited to start off the series with one of my favorite people in the industry, Mike Anderson. Hi, Mike.
Hello. How are you today, ma'am?
Great. So Mike just had, I think you just finished the first, speaking session, I guess we'll call it.
Yes, ma'am.
So you kicked off the whole show, which who better than Mike Anderson? So what was the main topic of what you talked about today in that session?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me. And just a big shout out to Jordan and Josh and all the associations for having me here this morning. Just really honored. And for those of you that aren't here at the show, I got to tell you, the line was, we had a delay starting almost 20, 30 minutes because the line was so long coming in the door. So
wow.
Great show. I just got to give them credit. So,
yes.
So the title of my presentation this morning was called Be Extraordinary. Be Extraordinary. And as you know, every year I pick a theme, and this year my theme was Be Extraordinary. So what do I mean by that? Be extraordinary at the customer experience. Be extraordinary as the employer of choice so that people want to work for you. Be extraordinary at OEM repair research. Be extraordinary at training. So it was just the whole theme is be extraordinary in the areas that we need to be extraordinary in so we can thrive and not just survive.
I love that. Now, how do you feel like most shops are stacking up to that? Do you feel like they're being their best selves?
So,
I love that you laughed at that.
Yes. So I laughed because what we did is we talked about like when somebody wrecks their vehicle, like what type of emotions are they feeling? And I went around the audience and I asked people, I said, okay, so somebody just wrecks their brand new vehicle. What emotion do you think they're feeling? And some of the things that were offered up were that, people are, stressed, they're mad, they're concerned. They're just all these negative emotions, right?
Right.
So we have to understand that when that consumer or vehicle owner first comes into contact with us, whether it's calling us or walking into our facility, we have the ability and almost an obligation to make them feel less stressed, less worried, less mad, less concerned, whatever those negative emotions are.
Right.
So to illustrate that point, I actually called 2 shops live. And
oh my gosh.
Did a role play. And I said, hey, my name is, Mike, and I just wrecked my Nissan and I've got XYZ insurance.
Yeah.
And to just kind of grade how they did. And, and unfortunately, I knew the shops. So I asked their permission first. Right. And both of them unfortunately failed. Right. so one of the things we talked about is that, and so, one of the things that I told you was that I think people are getting very complacent right now.
Yeah.
Like if you ask everybody said they had a record year in sales.
Yeah.
But like we just can't lose sight of that vehicle owner. We can't lose sight that we're there to serve them and we have to just be extraordinary at the customer experience. So
I agree. What a great idea. I love that. Now, were those shops like in the audience that you asked if they could call?
Yes.
Wow.
So in front of like 100 and some people, and we just picked 2 random people out of the audience and said, hey, what's your number? I'm calling your shop.
Right.
So, and I think everybody was like probably sitting there thinking, oh my God, I'm glad he didn't pick me. Right?
That's right.
Yes.
Well, and I heard a statistic. I don't know if you've heard this, but we think oftentimes our businesses have amazing customer service. And then when they're surveyed, and this is in general, not just collision, but then once surveyed, it's like, 40 to 50% of people are actually believe that it was extraordinary. Anything more than average, basically, to use the words that you're using, which is, surprising for a lot of business owners who think they're getting it right.
Yes.
So what do you think then for shop owners? Because I'm sure if you would have probably called every shop that was represented in the room, you would have had a similar experience. Where do you think they should start in order to turn that around?
No, I 100% agree. So first of all, I think as an industry, we've kind of done ourselves a disservice. So I think we've focused on customer service versus customer experience.
Yes.
So obviously many OEMs and many insurance carriers require that shops do CSI surveys. And basically it's three questions. Were you kept informed? Was the vehicle delivered on time as promised? And did you have to return the vehicle for any issues?
Right.
And so everything we do or everything that our staff members have done is in regards to kept informed, on-time delivery, vehicle fixed rate.
Right.
And I believe what we've done is we've handcuffed our employees where that's all they're focused on. And they're not thinking about an extraordinary customer service experience.
Yes.
And so I think that also there's a term I learned from a gentleman by the name of Nick Schoolcraft at Phoenix Solutions, if you know Nick. And he taught me this term called social proof. And that is that consumers are looking for social proof that we can be trusted.
Yes.
And one of those forms of social proof is online reviews. So if we don't deliver, we might do a good job of customer service, but if we don't do an extraordinary job in customer experience, then we're not going to get those online reviews or people to be raving fans who got there and tell their friends and family about us. So yes, I believe our industry is falling short on that. And I think we're so busy that it's almost, and I hate to say this, but I think some shops are getting to the point where, and I don't think they do it intentionally, but it's almost like if they make a customer mad, they're like, well, I got a 3-week or 3-month backlog, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
I think that's a recipe for disaster.
I agree with you. And I see that a lot myself with the shops that I work with. And it sounds like everything that you're saying, if I can put it in a nutshell, is really connecting. We talked about employees being extraordinary employers, basically, and extraordinary in our customer experience. And I think it all comes down to emotionally connecting with people more than processing and getting through the procedure of everything. And, we check the person in, we've got them going, the site, let's look at the cycle time. Did they need to come back? All of these process oriented things versus did we connect with them emotionally? Did we support them emotionally? Same for our team. Do you feel like that is kind of at the core of all of this?
100% agree, right? So I think oftentimes we think about, CSI, customer satisfaction index. But we also have to look at that ESI, employee satisfaction index. And I think it's one of the things we have to do is ensure if you don't have happy employees, you won't have happy customers, right?
Yes.
They go hand in hand. And so I think the ability to just make sure that we have a great culture. And that was one of the other things that I shared was be extraordinary as an employer, be extraordinary in regards to culture. Because right now, most every shop in North America has tons of cars to fix. What they don't have is tons of people.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to be that employer of choice. And, I kind of shared a comment that I said that we want to be a place as an employer where people don't just love their job, they love the organization. So they don't just love what they do, they love the organization. Like if you're a company, they want to wear your jersey, right? And I think that's really important. And I think that we have to start looking at flexible work hours, 4-day work weeks, recognizing people for extraordinary performance. And I think culture, I think it's undervalued in our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot of breaking outside of the box of what they normally do. And that's very uncomfortable for people and oftentimes confusing because it's like, where do I start? For somebody that's done what they do for so long, it all sounds really great, but where do I start?
Yeah, it's so funny. I was watching a TV show recently, California Fire, if you've ever watched it, right? I love it, right? And the fire chief, he had this, person on his fire, his team on the fire department was having a bad day, and he's like, just, work hard, drink beer, and repeat, And somebody caught him out on that, said that doesn't work anymore. And then one of the later episodes, you have this old crotchety fire chief guy that goes up to one of his firefighters and says, look, I was wrong. And I just, what you really need to do is seek out some professional counseling and things like that. So where I'm going with all that is that we have a lot of, body shop owners or managers or technicians have been in the industry a long time, and they're not into touchy-feely, but I think we have to understand that people feel appreciated in different ways.
Yeah.
There's a book that I love called The 5 Languages of Appreciation by Dr. Chapman, and it was based off of his book, The 5 Love Languages. But everybody has a different language of appreciation and, or affirmation, right? And so understanding that people are not all motivated by money, and there's different ways we make people feel appreciated.
Yeah, I love that. Do you remember what those 5 were by chance?
Yeah. So one is gifts. One was words of affirmation.
Okay.
One was acts of service.
Okay.
One was physical touch. And the other one was, and the other one's quality time.
Oh, yeah.
So I know you think physical touch, but I'm not going to go hugging and kissing my employees. No, but a handshake in the morning, a smile, those types of things, right?
Right.
And there's actually an assessment, and you can take to understand how your employees feel appreciated. So, I'll share another tidbit with you too. I learned this from a shop called Trinity Collision in Moncton, Canada. And Mr. Taylor, who owns the body shop and dealership, when somebody does something extraordinary, he doesn't reward them with a financial bonus, because he feels that when you do that, once they spend the money 5 years from now, they won't remember it. So he tries to reward them for extraordinary performance. I think that's the key. When somebody does something extraordinary, he tries to reward them in a way that creates a memory. So, for example, he will pay somebody to clean your house every week for a month. Right. So that creates a memory, right?
Yeah.
Or he'll do something like he'll send you on a paid vacation. That creates a memory.
Wow.
And
that's cool.
Yeah, I have another dealership client, and the way they reward people is they have what's called paid vacations.
Okay.
So instead of just paid vacation. So they found that most people, when they took their vacation, they still need that paycheck to pay their bills because of the way they're on a budget.
Right.
So what he does is he gives them extra money but they have to use it for a hotel or an airfare.
Okay.
And he gives them extra money. So he's paying them not just their week's paid vacation, but once a year, he gives them $2,000 that they can use for airfare, hotels, or whatever. So it's a paid vacation, which I thought was pretty cool.
What a great idea. This is the kind of stuff that I always call them my shower movements, because I have these ideas in the shower that I would never normally have. Because you think, gosh, how do these people come up with this? But what a great idea. Really talk about outside the box. And really understanding the needs of our people. Like you said, having the experience versus the money feels good and it's always helpful. But having an experience really endears the employee to the establishment, not just the owner or the manager that gave them that bonus. I mean, it's the organization. Wow. What a great idea.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So Michael and Kyle Bradshaw and their team are here from K&M Collision. So shout out to the team at K&M Collision. But one of the things we were talking about, because they were in attendance today, is that they went to a 4-day work week. And they went to a 4-day work week, and their sales went up by almost 15%.
Wow.
So same exact employees.
Right.
But they went to a 4-day work week and their sales grew 15%, right?
Wow.
And I mean, that's just, I think that we've got to understand that we have to think outside the box for things like that.
Right. Well, and understanding and being okay that it might not work perfectly when you try these things, and being okay with that. I think a lot of people get stuck in the thought that if I try it and it doesn't work, then it's catastrophic. And it's well, no. I mean, K&M didn't know a 4-day work week was going to work for them and their team unless they rolled it out, right?
Yes.
And look what they found. And if it didn't work, you go back to your 5 days, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes. And, and maybe somebody doesn't want to do that. Well, then maybe there's something else that's important with them. So,
right.
But
That's really
another thing that we talked about being extraordinary was OEM repair research. And Tim Papp was here in the audience today from Papp Auto Body in Illinois.
Yeah.
And Tim Papp is an amazing gentleman, runs an amazing organization.
Yeah.
And they actually fixed a General Motors vehicle, Silverado truck. And it was hit in the front end. And General Motors in their repair procedures says that you need to remove the dash and inspect the dash carrier. And most shops are not doing that. But Tim did it. And when he removed the dash carrier was actually cracked and broken. So Tim shared a photo of that with me. So in my seminar, Be Extraordinary at OEM Repair Research, I asked how many of you are doing this, and most people did not raise their hand.
Right.
And I brought Tim up, and I said, Tim removed this dash. Here's what he found. And so there's a valid reason why we need to do this. So I just wanted, a lot of times I think we tell ourselves, that's not really necessary, or I'm smarter than an engineer. But I wanted them to hear firsthand from a fellow shop owner who had experienced that. And it was just great to share those insights with the attendees.
Oh, for sure. Well, and I think you made a really good point early on that shops are so busy right now that I think that's creating a lot of actually more issues than benefit to some degree, because they're allowing things to get swept under the rug. It's like, well, it doesn't really need that because, they've got so much work. They feel restricted on time. How do you feel about that?
So it's like you were at my seminar today when you said that, because when I closed, one of the things I said was that lots of sales cover lots of sins.
Yeah.
Lots of sales cover lots of sins.
Right.
So I actually showed them statistics. I said, we at Collision Vice publish a State of the Industry quarterly, and I'd love to add you to our mailing list if you're interested.
I would love that.
So one of the things we just released was the average severity for all claims in the United States of America for 2022, as well as the average body labor, frame, paint, mechanical labor hours per state.
Okay.
So we used Virginia, for example. So Virginia's average severity between 2021 and 2022 went up $600. Now, people might say, well, that's great. But we looked at their average labor hours, and the average body labor hours had only increased by 0.5.
Really?
And average paint labor hours had only increased by 0.3.
Really?
So the severity, every shop you ask says, I had record sales last year.
Yeah.
But it's not because they've gotten better at what they do or writing better estimates. It's because the average estimate has 5 to 8 more parts per estimate. We know that the average parts price has increased anywhere from 13 to 18%. And then we have calibrations, which are anywhere from $300 to $500.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I think shops have a false sense of security that, oh my gosh, I'm doing so great. When the reality is they really are only doing great because calibrations and parts are on the estimate. If it wasn't for those two things, there are shops that would have actually done less in sales last year because we've gotten away from the things that made us successful. So lots of sales cover lots of sins is that we tend to overlook the things that made us successful when we get really busy, like following up on our receivables, following up on parts credits, that extraordinary customer experience, following up on estimates. So I honestly, ma'am, I'm in 100% agreement with the statement you just made. I think, what's that saying? And I feel like this is, I understand I'm not like a kill pig kind of guy, but what's that saying? Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of just a saying, right? But I just want to be sensitive to any pig lovers out there. But at the end of the day, I think that shops, if they don't wake up, I'm really, really concerned, honestly. That a lot of shops have a false sense of security. And anybody listening to this podcast, please don't fall into that lull or that false sense of security that, oh my God, I'm killing it. You're killing it because of your more parts and calibrations and sublets increased. Go back and look at what your average labor hours are per estimate, right?
Yeah.
And look at your car count. Are you doing more vehicles? Are you doing less? Are you doing the same? So I think that's really important.
Right. I have a performance coach and he works with the Navy SEALs, and they have a saying, and it basically is slow down so that you can speed up type of thing. And I forget what it is. Slow is fast, and fast is there's something like that. But it really goes in line. It reminded me from what you were talking about, how I think a lot of these shops, because they're so busy, think they need to run in a sprint all the time. And it's like, well, slow down a minute. Like you had made a good point about, well, a lot of good points, but one of the points of, parts credits, things like that. They're so inundated. They're missing all these little monies they could be making that ends up totaling quite a bit of money. If they were to slow down, I bet you the profit per RO would be much higher.
Oh my gosh, I could not say it better, ma'am. High five to you. Awesome, right? Yes. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I think about too, like Jake Rodenroth is here from Lucid.
Oh, yes.
And love Jake. He's so incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just amazing. And one of the things Jake said was that in the past, whenever he worked on a car, if he messed up, he hurt the car, not himself. Now, if he makes a mistake, he can hurt or kill himself on electric vehicles, right?
Right.
So I going back to your Navy SEAL analogy, it's like defusing a bomb, right? You don't rush on that. You got to slow down and make sure you cross your T's, dot your I's. And I think honestly that I think people are so busy that they're rushing so much to get to the next car. They're not writing as thorough of an estimate, right? Or they're not giving that customer experience. I was honestly in a shop recently, and I won't say the shop's name, and they had about 320 outstanding parts credits. And some of them were 6 months old. And I'm like, what? Like, and it was like $107,000. And I was like, dude, like, what are you doing? And he's, oh my gosh, we've just been so busy. And well, you can't be too busy to focus on those types of things. Right.
Yeah. You're too busy. What does that really mean, though? You're too busy.
Yeah, I think it's an excuse. And by the way, if that shop is watching this podcast right now, I hope you got them parts credits called in, right?
Mike's going to check on you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I love it. I wish I could have been there in person to hear it. It sounds like it was a great, I'm sure it was a great class. You're always wonderful.
Very kind.
Is there anything else you feel like was top of mind that you wanted to share before I send you off to go enjoy the rest of your day?
I think it's just that, we have a saying at Collision Advice, you need to learn to research and research to learn. And I think that we really need to spend the time to learn how to use the OEM repair procedures and then use the OEM repair procedures to learn how to fix the car properly. Yeah. But also, again, just be extraordinary as an employer. Appreciate your employees, appreciate your team, truly treat them as family. Think outside the box in regards to benefits. Remember, we're competing with the Amazons of the world and things of that nature. So think about flexible work schedules and just showing people how much you appreciate and love them. And more importantly, make sure they subscribe to your podcast so that they watch them and listen to them on a regular basis. So
yes, that's right.
To be on here.
Listen to Mike.
Yes, ma'am. Don't delay. Do it today.
Don't delay. Do it today. I love that. Well, thank you, Mike, for coming on. So appreciate you. Southeast Collision Conference has so many great people we're going to talk to. And thanks again to Lombard Equipment for sponsoring this. They've been in business for 30 years. We can see their sign. Their booth is actually behind you back there. So super appreciative for them, too. So thank you. And stay tuned, everybody, for the next one. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's show, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We have some incredible topics and guests coming your way you will not want to miss. If you are watching on YouTube and don't want to miss the latest and greatest, you'll want to hit the bell after subscribing, so you will get a pop-up each time a video podcast goes live. To our devoted fans, would you mind paying it forward and sharing this little gem with someone else you think may benefit from it? Much love from all of us here at Body Bangin', all things auto body.